Welcome back to JRG Guitars. Up today is episode 2 in our PRS style build. In episode 1, we unboxed the guitar, we took a look at the components, and it really looked like it was going to be a nice build. We didn't quite know exactly what we were going to do with the guitar yet, but we were excited to see where it was going to end up. So we're not much further along with knowing the exact design and exactly what we're going to look like, but we do have to do some groundwork first to sort of get things moving and getting in the right direction, and that's what we're going to get after today. So we're going to start with the neck. We're going to work on those frets, we're going to clean up the fretboard, and we're going to condition the back of the neck as well. I have found it important for me to start with the neck because it is some of the more tedious work that is very important to get done and get done right, because it makes the guitar really feel right and play right at the end. But it's not very exciting in that it's just this tedious work of polishing and getting the frets looking nice and feeling nice. Of course, getting them leveled and crowned all before that. So we're going to get after that. We're going to condition the back of the neck. We're going to do a little bit of accents and some grain filler on this as well. Should be an exciting one. So let's get right to it right now. Well, here we are on the workbench. I've got the neck laid out here in front of me, cradled up here on my holder, and the plan here is to clean up the frets, clean up the edges, and get this thing in good shape. I'm gonna first knock the nut off. Usually the nut is just on there with a tiny bit of glue, so I plan to just put a little wood block here, give it just a slight tap, and the nut just comes right off, and I'll be able to clean that up so I can get it right back down on there without issue. So we're just going to go by and we're going to flatten the neck and we're going to get everything in good shape. So here I am. Here I have a serious back bow, and using that notch straight edge I was able to make a couple truss rod tweaks to get that neck nice and flat. First thing I want to do is just hit the edges right here, and I have my file that has this tapered edge where I can go by and just knock anything down that's sticking over. We're in good shape, so we'll just run this. And now I come by with my safety file that enables me to safely finish these edges. And as I've learned in the past, it really is better to start at the high fret, because it feels like you get less frets as you go this way because they get farther and farther apart. So let's just start with a little bit of cleaning up. So this is definitely a long and tedious process. What I have is my little safety edge file that you can see here when I'm a little bit zoomed in. I go by each fret and just knock those edges down that might be a little bit sharp. And I continue to hit each side of them and then test it with my finger. And of course, I have 22 frets and there's 2 sides, so it's 44 total edges to be done. So it is definitely a long process, but one that will yield nice results if you put the work in at the front side. Once I've done all that, I'm coming by with some really fine grit sandpaper and just hitting the fretboard and the edge of the fret just to clean them up a little bit and knock anything down, just to get everything in good shape. This is, I believe, 1000 grit paper. Then I come by with just a damp cloth and hit the fretboard a little bit just to clean off some of the dust and metal shavings and such, and it really makes that wood kind of jump out, and boy does it ever look good. Yeah, that's nice. Then it's time for the actual leveling and then crowning of the frets. So I tape off the fretboard so that I don't have any scratches, or when I come by with my marker, get any marker errors, stray marks on that. So we'll clean this up with tape and we'll get ready to go. So the first step here is to hit each fret with a Sharpie mark, and that way as I sand over the top of it, I can wipe away that Sharpie mark with the sand edge and know I've hit my bottom. So here we go. I've got my straight edge beam here with 1000 grit on it, and we're just going to go over until we get rid of the red mark, and then we'll know that we're pretty flat. So away we go. So it's nice to have a true straight edge. I put some sandpaper on there and just go back and forth until that Sharpie mark has disappeared, and that tells me that all the frets are level with the neighboring fret, and I know I have a perfectly flat fretboard. Once they're flat, I come through one more time, hit them with Sharpie mark, because as I crown them, I want to relieve the edges, so I leave just a high spot right on the middle of the fret. And this tool I'm using here is my Z file from StewMac, which has special tapered insides that as I hit with one side and then turn it over and hit with the other, it does create a nice crown, and what I'm left with is a very thin Sharpie line on the frets that have been done. And here you can see kind of the action as I'm up close on it, and you can see I go through and it gets rid of that Sharpie line and leaves just a thin mark right down the middle, and that becomes your contact point as the string contacts the fret, and it'll lead to perfect intonation. And again, I have 22 frets, so this is a long process to go through all of the frets and get them all nicely crowned up. But this file does make it pretty quick work, although it is tedious and it is certainly labor intensive. I don't have a machine to do this. I'm doing it all with my own hands. Here you can see that finished work. I move all the way down the fretboard, and you can see a nice thin line on each fret, revealing that perfect intonation point. All of that file work certainly leads to a nicely crowned fret, but it does leave a lot of scratch marks on the fret. So I come through here with a multi-stage process with very fine grit sandpaper and steel wool and fret erasers that will work diligently to get all of those marks taken down, so it could be a nice, flush, clean fret that then can be polished up to a really high shine and, of course, feel very good under the fingertips. And you can see that last fret there, the shine on it, certainly very nice. So that's the fruits of labor of that process, and I will repeat for all 22 frets to get them all looking very nice. So the last of the fret work kind of done. It's tedious, it's labor intensive, but we got it there. So now we'll just strip all this off. We're going to clean up the fretboard. So the tape off, I just gave a quick little cleanup, and I've got my F1 oil from Music Nomad, which is just a fretboard conditioner type thing, as is to not only hydrate the fretboard, but provide some much needed moisture into this wood. Yeah, it's not really getting there. Let's get a little bit more on. So we will just let that sit and do its thing. So coming back here, it's only been about 15 or 20 minutes, and there's virtually nothing to wipe off. As I give it just a precursor kind of wipe down, there's just so little coming off. Tells me how thirsty that wood was. Fantastic. I think I'll give it another application just to really hydrate. So we'll let that soak for another little bit. This wood is thankful for all of that, for sure. So here we are now going to gear up for getting the neck fitted in there so I know exactly where the neck joins the body, making a couple pencil marks on there so that I can tape up and protect the fretboard and neck from getting any glue on the area where the joint will happen. I want to make sure that stays raw wood, no finish, no glues until I'm intending to put glues on there. So I just protect up the back side of the neck there where it will come in contact with the body, as I'm then going to go ahead and process a little bit of finish on the neck coming up. So I come down here with some fine grit sandpaper, and I just want to clean up the back of the neck here. So I come by with a few different grits, starting with a 320, moving up to a 500 or so, just to get everything in good shape, hitting all around the headstock and the corners and everything else. And then just a little bit of water to get any of the sort of sawdust and other stuff out of there. It also pops those grains up a bit in the wood. I give it a second under that moisture, and then I hit it again with some sandpaper, and it really then takes those grains down and makes this thing be smooth as can be. So here I come in with some grain filler. So what I have is my Aquacoat grain filler and just a little bit of black dye. What I want to do is just tint the grain filler slightly, so when I apply it to the back of the neck and headstock, it will have a penetrating effect and pop out those deeper parts of the grain that are already a little bit dark. This will darken them even more, and that will help accent all that grain when I then put finish on top of it. So for this process, just very simply, I put it on a little piece of paper towel, wipe it in. It dries very quickly. This is a water-based product. It gets in there, gets in the grains. I wipe it down clear, let it dry, and then we'll sand it back, and we'll see the results here in a moment. So giving it a good time to dry, I come by with some sandpaper and then just sand it back. What I'm looking to do is take all of the darkness off of the top of the wood and leave just now that wood filler down in the lower parts, down in the grooves, in the grain, so it will be nicely filled up to the same height. And since I tinted it, it will be accented darker in those areas. So I will next apply a little bit of sanding sealer to the back of the neck, but I will be at some point staining the front of the headstock, so I don't want any sanding sealer or anything getting on that. So I'm going to carefully tape up the headstock. I come through here with a little bit of sandpaper. That's just a round piece of PVC, creating a sharp edge, and as I go at an angle there, it kind of perforates the tape where I can get it taken off there, and it creates a really nice sharp line around that edge. So I come through with my Minwax sanding sealer. Again, I just put it on a little bit of a paper towel. Just wipe it on there, and then just let it air dry. A very thin coat. As I wipe it on, it foams up, you can see there. I do like to wipe that down so it ends up not causing sanding problems after that. All right, well, there we have it. So that neck is now at a point where it's ready to just be glued into the body, set in there, and it's pretty much ready to go. I will do some final polishing of those frets with my rotary tool just to buff them up right there at the end. But until that time, we'll keep that fingerboard taped off and protected. The only thing left on that neck to do is to just treat the headstock a little bit with some accenting and some dyes. It's why we had that taped off and protected. We went through everything else. So that's really all that's left on that neck, and we can see where we might go. So coming up ahead, we will pick a direction on how we're gonna stain the body, and we will begin that process on the next video. So if you're liking this video series or any of the videos that I put up on here, I urge you to please click the like button, press the subscribe button, and ring that bell for notifications, and therefore you'll know when the next video is coming out in this series or any of the other series down the line. So I'd like to thank you very much for watching this episode and sticking in here to the end. So we'll catch you next time on JRG Guitars.
JRG Guitars.